Right. A very good evening to all of you guys. Hope you guys are doing well. And also hope you guys saw the message that the session will be starting. I think we said 7:15 onwards. Now it's almost 7:30 due to the power cut schedule. I was unable to do it at the normal time that we do the virtual session, that is from 4 to 6. So anyway, now we are here. Right. And I think we are able to do a productive session. Let's start. Okay. So we are in the last part of the first book for Unit 1. We started a discussion on factors of production. And to the best of what I remember, we completed a discussion on the factor of production known as land. Am I correct? Yes, we have completed the discussion on the factor of production known as land. Is that correct, Putta? Yes, right. Okay. So let's quickly have a look at the study material also, so that we are very clear on where we are. So in terms of the study material, sorry if this is going too fast for you guys. Right, we completed economic, non-economic. I think we are done with land. So we have completed page 39. We looked at the characteristics of features of land, correct? And then we spoke a bit about capital. Have you written the note here, Putta, for capital? Yes, we have written the note, right. And then did we look at the characteristics of capital? Did I ask you guys to write them? Yes, let's see. No, okay, right. Shall we start by writing the characteristics of capital? And I'll do a quick recap of capital, and then we will look at the characteristics. Next, we have to look at the different types of capital. Okay, right. So I think that's a good place to start. Okay, so right. So can we write this? Can we quickly write these characteristics of capital? Yeah, then we'll start the discussion. Okay, right. Can we get this done, Putta, in page 41 of the study material, where it says characteristics or features of capital resources? Are we okay? Right? You guys are clear? Right. Quickly make a note of this. So, how are we doing? Right. I think you guys are almost done. So let me start with a quick recap on what we learned as capital, Putha. Now, one of the very first things we should know about capital is, yes, capital is the human-made, or sometimes we say man-made or produced factor of production. A very important thing to understand about capital was, if we remember what we discussed last week, just because something is man-made, or simply because something is man-made and it is we don't say that particular item or that particular factor is capital. Capital as a factor of production has to be something human-made, plus it has to be a real asset. It has to be something human-made, and also it has to be a real asset. Because in economics, money is not considered as capital, or money is not a factor of production. Money, that is coins and notes, currency, and any other form of money, which is broadly called financial capital. So capital as a factor of production is not financial capital or money. Therefore, we say capital is a real concept or a real asset. Is that clear, Buddha? So now someone can always argue if capital is human-made or man-made items that are used within the production process, and if money is also human-made, why can't we consider money as capital? The issue here is money, coins and notes, which is called currency, or any other financial asset or financial form, we can't directly use. It cannot be directly used in producing any good or service. The idea is for something to be a factor of production, it has to be something we can use within the production process as an input. Money cannot be used within the production process as an input, but money is very important in production because it gives us something called financial capital. So but basically what we do is we use money or financial capital, and we are able to acquire or purchase, hire, rent. Okay, so the word we can use is acquire. Acquiring means purchasing, renting, hiring the real assets that we can then use within the process of producing goods and services. That's why I kept saying earlier also, money cannot be directly used in producing any good or service, but money is very important in production because money provides the financial capital we need. Money provides the funding we need so that we can acquire the real assets. Those human-made real assets that we can use or that assist or aid in the production process is what we call capital. So the famous saying here is, money is not capital. Why? Because money is not a factor of production. You can't use money and directly produce any good or service. But money is financial capital, and financial capital is important to acquire real assets or capital. Therefore, capital is known as a real concept. Whenever the word real is used in economics, it is to show the difference between something material, something of in terms of a good or a service, and to show the difference that it is not financial. When we want to say something is not financial, we use the word real. We use the word real, right? Are we clear, Putta? Are we okay there? It's a very important thing that has been tested a lot in your exam also, right? We need to be very clear that capital is something of a real asset, not money, not financial, right? Then we say capital is a stock concept. So what does that mean? I explained this a bit to you guys in the previous session as well. Stock concepts. What are the two types of concepts we talk about? Stock versus what? If you guys remember, right? We have basically we have stock concept versus, we say, yes, some of you might remember. Let's say I'm getting some, very good. Yes, Akila, brilliant. Yes, we say flow concept, stock versus flow, right? So stock concepts are things when we measure them, right? Or when we, so we say measure, or when we present the value, right? When we measure or present the value, if something is a stock concept, we give it as at, meaning we give it at a given point of time. We give it at a given point of time. When we give something, this is the value as at this particular point of time, that means it's a stock concept. So then what is a flow concept? How do we measure or present the value of flow concepts? We measure or present the value of flow concepts, right? Measure or present the value of flow concepts. How do we present them? We say, right? Either we say, we can say period ended, or we can say, let's put it this way, I think, right? There's a bit of a lag here. I think it will not interrupt our session. Anyway, so we say end of a period. So a very common way to say this is, we say year ended. Year ended. So that means, anything that is a flow concept is given during a given period of time. Get it? During a given period of time. During a given period of time. Okay, period of time. I hope you guys can see what I'm writing towards the bottom of the page, slide. Is that clear, Bata? You guys can see, no? Right? During a given period of time. Yeah, can see? We are okay? Right. So, right, good. So as an example, what I gave was, if you guys remember, what did I say? With that subject, most of you might have learned for O-levels. If you haven't learned, no problem. Business and accounting studies, was it? Right. So in that subject, you might have learned, or if you're doing accounting for A-levels also, sometimes you might have got an idea now. When we look at these two accounting statements, now when we take the balance, right, balance sheet, yes, later on you will learn it as the statement of financial position. When you take the balance sheet, right, now in the balance sheet, what do we include? Normally in a balance sheet or a statement of financial position, what do we include? What are the items? Main headings are what? If you have done a bit of accounting, you might know. Yes, what do we have in a balance sheet? Very good. Yes, anyone else who can also contribute? Akila, what you said is correct. What do we include in a balance sheet, Putta? In this financial statement called a balance sheet, what do we have? Yes, Nuha, that is one of the things we include. Good. Anyone else who can contribute? Basic, just what you know, Putta. Right? Yes, Nuha. Then those are the other two items. Brilliant. Anyone else? What do we include in a balance sheet? What are the main items we see in a balance sheet? If you haven't done that subject for O-levels, Putta, perfectly okay, right? Don't worry about it. I'm just asking, right? So that I can give you something. Shera, very good. Yes, those are the items we include. Right. I think some of you guys are contributing. So yeah, in a balance sheet, Putta, we include assets on one side, or assets. Then we have liabilities and equity. So assets, liability, equity. These are what we include in the balance sheet, they are all stock concepts. That's why, Buddha, when we prepare a balance sheet, when we date the balance sheet, we always say as at. As at. I think I said this last week. I think I might have definitely mentioned this last week. A balance sheet is like when you take a picture of when you take a portrait or a picture, like if you're taking a family portrait or family picture or something, you have your parents, the siblings, everyone, grandparents, everyone sits and, in one place, and the photographer goes, okay, smile or whatever it is, and you click. Get it? So that's at that moment you capture. Get it? So the assets, liabilities, equity at that moment. Now, the next minute, if you take another picture, if you compare the two pictures, there might be some change. Someone would be looking in another direction, someone would have their eyes closed or whatever. That means these are all stock concepts because they keep changing. They keep changing. So we capture them at a given point of time. Capital is a stock concept. When we say the capital stock of a business, the capital stock of a country, and when we give a value, that means it is the value of capital assets, stock of capital, capital assets, stock of capital at a given point of time. Then if you take this other accounting statement, right, there are different names: statement of comprehensive income, profit and loss account, all that. We'll call it for now simply a income statement, right? If you take a income statement, it is basically a statement that includes flow concepts. What do we normally include in an income statement? We normally include basically income, expenditure, profits. These are the items we generally have, especially income and expenditure. So income and expenditure are flow concepts because they are given for a certain period of time. During this year, this is the income. During this month, this is the income. During this week, this is the income. Is that clear, Buddha? So they are called flow concepts. So I think we are very clear on these things. I wanted to take some time here because not only capital, Buddha, there are other things we learn in economics. We call them stock concepts as well. Stock concepts as well. Right. So we are okay with these features then, hopefully. Right. Consists of productivity. Basically, what that means is when we machinery, equipments, right? Some of the things you can see in this image here, right, are examples of capital. No? So all of these items, they have the ability to produce an output, which means we can use capital and produce goods and services. The ability within a factor of production. Let me repeat. The ability or the potential, within a factor of production to create a good or service, to produce an output. The ability within a factor of production or the potential within a factor of production to produce an output is what we call productivity. So all capital assets include a productivity. We can use them and directly we can produce goods and services. So we say consists of productivity. And also another thing we learned when we will learn when we talk about labor as a factor of production is the more capital we use, the productivity, our ability to produce goods and services, right, will keep increasing. So the more capital we use, productivity improves. Right. If you guys have any questions, anything not clear, you need to let me know. Okay. Right. Then it says the final characteristic is can be used in production or on a repeated basis. Can be used in production on a repeated basis, especially fixed capital. Machinery, equipments, right? These kinds of things, especially fixed capital, we can use them again and again within the production process. And the more we use capital, what happens? Capital will be subject to depreciation. What is depreciation? In accounting, of course, you guys talk about that in more of a detailed way. But in economics, depreciation simply means the reduction in value. right? Reduction in value of a certain asset. So when we keep using an asset, machinery, equipment, vehicles, buildings, whatever, these capital assets, when we keep using them in production again and again, repeatedly, the value of those assets keep decreasing over a period of time. They will decrease. The value will decrease. Value will decrease. So basically what happens is any machinery, any equipment, any capital asset, when we use it within the production process, right? A part of the productivity within that capital asset, we actually are taking it out. And that the amount of the productivity, amount of the usefulness from a capital asset we take out is actually the depreciation, the value of the depreciation. So I'll stop it there because later on we talk about this more, especially in unit 4, we talk about depreciation a bit. And in unit 5 under macroeconomics, we talk about depreciation. There in unit 5, we use a special term also for depreciation. We call it CFC, consumption of fixed capital. We call it CFC, consumption of fixed capital. So all of these are the main characteristics of capital. Okay, right. Any questions? Anything you guys want to know, or are we okay? Where is? How are we doing? We are okay. We are clear on everything. Right. Now we know what is capital. We know how to define capital in a simple 2-line definition we have. Then we also know we have to include a few more things when we provide a full definition for capital, right? So I'm referring to this part, Putha. So let me just be clear because it's an important factor of production, right? So here, the 2-line definition. So this is the first thing we write when we ask what is capital, right? Then we include this part also, right? We also mention these main features and just make sure we are clear. And we know the price of capital, right? Any payment you make for capital, any income you earn from capital is called interest. It's called interest. Then we know the proper examples of capital, keeping in mind money is not capital, not a factor of production. And now we know the features of capital as well. So we can recognize capital. Okay, if anything is, if any factor of production is given to us, we can look at the features and characteristics and recognize it is capital. Okay, right. I think that's that. Okay, then there are different types of capital, Putha. We need to have a basic understanding. I've given a complete set of notes in starting from page number 50 up to page number 53, a proper, very clear set of notes I have given. Your job is, my intelligent students, to read them, to go through them and be familiar with them. But my job here is to give you a basic understanding of what are these different types of capital that we talk about. So we start in page 50. First, we talk a bit about renewable, non-renewable. Last week we did this. And then we go into the types of capital. First, we talk about fixed capital. But make sure, Putha, you read. Okay, that's very important. Reading is one of the 4 pillars of ultimate knowledge. The way you get proper knowledge about anything is, there are 4 pillars of knowledge. What are these 4 pillars? You guys know this. You guys were given something like this when you collected the hard copy of the, study materials. I'm sure all of you guys have this at home. Do you? It might not be in this way, but I'm sure with your notes, with your tudes, the first set of notes or tudes, study material, you got this. Yeah. Anyone who has this? A green color poster-like thing? Yes. I've asked the coordinator to give it to all the virtual students as well. Yeah. Okay. Have you gone through it? Have you made sure you have pasted it somewhere in your room, in your study area, where you can see? This is your entire Econ-Hub program is summarized here. And in this, Putha, there is something that I have, a diagram I have that says there are 4 pillars, right? And on top of the 4 pillars, I have said ultimate knowledge and success, right? So what are the 4 pillars? The 4 pillars of learning are what? If anyone can let me know, you might see the poster now, or you might remember the 4 pillars. Very important. Your entire knowledge is based on these 4 pillars. What are they? No? Anyone? Can't remember? Okay, let's see. I'm getting a response. Okay. Christine, very good. Anyone else who can let me know quickly what are the 4 pillars of ultimate knowledge? If you want to learn anything, if you want to get the proper knowledge of anything, these 4 things have to be followed. These are the 4 pillars upon which knowledge is rested. Very good. Now I'm getting answers. Noah, very correct. Madija, very correct. Yes. Khadija, very correct. Yes, right. Reading, writing, listening, applying. Reading, writing, listening, application or applying. Reading, writing, listening. However much technology develops, these 3 things are key. So one of those key pillars is reading. So Pata, all of this reading area, reading exercise, everything here, you guys have to take time in your own pace, in your own space. You guys have to read. Are we clear? So I'm going to put all my trust in you that you will find the time and gradually read everything here. Okay? Right. This is all about the trust. Okay? Right. Then with the fixed capital. Basically, fixed capital are any capital asset that can be used within the production process over and over again within a period of time. We don't expect anything from these fixed capital assets to be a part of the final product. If it's a machine, if it's some equipment, if it's a vehicle, right? If it's a building, these are fixed capital. Now, for example, if you look at a bakery, right, where they will say make bread or something, the building, the bakery is in, the machinery, equipments that they use in the bakery, the ovens and things like that they use, the other equipments that they use, you don't expect any parts of those building machinery equipment to be inside the bread. So we don't expect them to be a part of the final product. But definitely they contribute. They are productive factors of production, these fixed assets. They will contribute. We use them and we take the productivity out of them and produce goods and services. So because we use them and take the productivity out of these fixed assets, fixed capital, what happens is their value over a period of time, their value will keep on decreasing. What did we call value reduction? We called value reduction depreciation. What is the proper term in economics? Consumption of fixed capital. What is it called with the CFC? Consumption of fixed capital. So that's the basic idea of fixed capital. Then we talk about financial capital. We talk about financial capital. Financial capital, remember, financial capital or money is not capital because it is not a factor of production, but it is highly important within the production process, because only if we have financial capital, only if we have machinery, only if we have financial capital or money, we can actually acquire, remember that word, we can acquire the fixed capital and the other real assets that we need to produce goods and services. So money or financial capital is in different forms. So I've explained all this. You need to take your time and on your own read these things with that. So it can be in different ways. It could be money now. It could be someone's savings that are used within the production process. Or it could be if you don't have enough money saved to start a business or engage in production, you will take loans. So credit loans can be financial capital. You can issue shares and get money. So equity can be financial capital. So different forms are there, right? Okay. My notes on fixed capital and financial capital are mainly based on Professor Prasanna Pereira's Introduction to Economics, textbook 1. I've given the source as well. So I've given a summarized version. Make sure you go through. Right. Then we talk about working capital and circulation capital. Right. Working capital is more of a accounting term, financial term. When you run a business with that, you need to have some money with you to run the day-to-day activities of the business. Day-to-day activities of the business. Because when you run a business, when you produce a good or service and sell that good or service, to get the income or the sales revenue, right? Sales revenue. And then until you get the sales revenue, you can't stop the business. No? You have to keep going. Now, think of a factory where they are doing some manufacturing or whatever it is. Think of a factory where they are making shoes, you know, footwear factory, shoe factory. So in a shoe factory or a footwear factory, you have to understand, right? They have to keep manufacturing. And once they manufacture or make the shoes, they will send it to the market and they will put it to the different shoe stores or wherever they sell, right? But end of the day, for those things to be sold and for them to get the income from selling the shoes, right? Until they do that, until that happens, until they get the income from selling the inventory or the stock of shoes they are produced, they can't wait without producing. There are people who supply raw materials, people who supply the rubber, people who supply the canvas, people who supply the other chemicals and glue and whatever you need, right? And then, you know, you have to pay your factory workers their salaries, you have to pay the electricity bills. So all these expenditures are there. Those expenditures will not wait until you get the income from selling the shoes. So that will happen. You will sell the shoes and get the income. But until you get the income from selling the shoes with the inventory or the stock of output, right? You have to run the business. The factory has to go on. So to manage the time between getting the revenue or income from selling your output and to pay for the inputs you need to have something called working capital. You need to have something called what capital? Working capital. To manage that gap between time delay between receiving income by selling your output and to make payments for the suppliers of raw materials, make payments to incur the costs such as electricity, wages, all these costs, and run a business. That's called working capital. Okay. Then circulation capital. What is circulation capital? If you want to keep your production process always going continuously, if you want to engage in the process, you need to make sure, right? You have 3 items or 3 types of circulation capital. What are these 3 types of circulation capital? You need to make sure you have to run your business on a continuous basis. The 3 types of circulation capital you need to have to run your business on a continuous basis would be, right? This is the production side. This is the more material side you're thinking about now. We are thinking about now. We need to have a proper stock of raw materials. We need to have work in progress, a stock of work in progress, semi-finished goods. Semi-finished goods. If you go back to our shoe factory example, you need to have enough raw materials in stock, Puta. Then only your production can continuously happen. At the same time, you need to have a good amount of stock work in progress, meaning shoes that are being produced. Maybe only the sole is made. Maybe they have completed half the shoe, right? Maybe they have completed the shoe, but they haven't done the lacing of it or whatever, or they haven't put the finishing touches, likewise. So work in progress, also you need a certain amount of stock. Raw materials, you need a certain amount of stock. Then you need a stock of finished goods. That's called inventory also sometimes, right? Inventory is used for both raw materials and finished goods, but you need to have a stock of or inventory of finished goods. Only if you have these 3 stocks properly with you as a business, circulation capital, your production can keep on going smoothly without any interruptions. Otherwise, if you don't have the sufficient or if you don't have enough stock of raw materials, at one point production will stop. Or you have the raw materials But if you don't have some finished, semi-finished goods or work in progress, when you finish selling your finished goods, you have a problem, because until the raw materials are converted to finished goods, you don't have, you need more time to do the production. So you need to have raw materials, semi-finished goods, and also finished goods. Only if you have a proper inventory of finished goods, when the prices in the market change, you can quickly supply and get that advantage. So that's called what capital? Circulation capital. Right. So before I explain the next part, are we clear on financial capital and circulation capital? Yes. Right. So there's a request from one of your virtual classmates to, if possible, to quickly explain the quickly part I am putting in, right? Explain financial capital again, right? Basically, the financial capital could be money, right? Could be loans or credit you get from banks, right? Also financial, and could be things like equity. That is, if you sell shares of your company to others, ask others to invest in your company, then that's called shares, equity. So it can be in any of these forms. Why do we need financial capital? In economics, financial capital is not a factor of production, right? Money is not capital, but we need financial capital to purchase or acquire, that's a better word, acquire the real assets we need, machinery, equipments, buildings, right? The raw materials, all the other inputs that we require in production. For us to get those inputs, we need financial capital. We need financial capital. But financial capital or money is not capital. It is not a factor of production. But it is something extremely important to engage in production. Is that clear, Buddha? If you get that idea, that's perfectly okay. But read the note. Right. Okay. Make sure you read the note as well. Then we are okay. Right. Okay. So I asked earlier, are we clear on working capital, circulation capital, basic idea? Remember, you guys will read the note, but for now, basic idea, if I have given, then I've done my job. How are we doing? We are okay? Yes? Right. If there's anything, Buddha, please ask. Economic overheads, social overheads. Right. Let's get this done quickly. What are economic overheads? Overheads are sometimes called infrastructure. Overheads are sometimes called infrastructure. So the basic idea of infrastructure is, or overheads is, these are different facilities, different, we can say different structures, facilities, systems that are there, right? If these systems or structures or buildings, right, these kinds of things are there, right, they are mostly fixed capital, right? If these things are there to improve the efficiency within the production process, to improve the productivity, to help us produce more output and to produce output at a lower cost. The purpose of these fixed assets and systems and facilities is to improve the efficiency of the production process and reduce our cost of production. Those are called economic overheads, economic infrastructure. Some examples could be given. We can talk about transportation networks, systems we have, communication networks, systems we have, ports, airports, harbors, all these things we have, railways, all the transportation broadly, right? So I say transportation, so that's covered. Then what are the energy systems we have? Electricity, right? Then things like the distribution of fuel and petrol, diesel, all of these things. All of these are known as economic infrastructure, right? Because the main purpose of providing these infrastructure facilities is to improve the efficiency within the process of producing goods and services to make production efficient, convenient, and to reduce our cost of production. That's called economic infrastructure, economic overheads. Then we have another set of such, facilities that are created, systems that are created, fixed assets that are created. There, the focus or the objective is not really to improve the efficiency and convenience of the production and exchange process. No, that is not the objective. Here, the objective is to improve our standard of living, improve our quality of life, so that we all can satisfy our basic human needs and have a good living standard, where we have a higher quality of life and we are able to fulfill our basic needs. If that is the purpose of providing certain infrastructure, certain overheads, those infrastructure overheads are called social overheads, social infrastructure. When you compare the examples, you will see the difference between economic infrastructure and social infrastructure, right? Social infrastructure, good examples include things like educational facilities, school buildings, equipment, libraries, things like that. Healthcare facilities, hospital buildings, equipments, operation theaters and things like that. Ambulances and stuff like that. Housing, sanitation facilities, right? Police service, okay? The police stations, fire brigade, the fire service and things like that. Fire stations and things like that. Then art galleries, parks, cultural centers, they are really good examples for social overheads. Why do we allocate so much of land, and why do we allocate sometimes a lot of money and maintain these public parks, playgrounds? Why do we maintain, these art galleries and, cultural centers and activities and all this? All of that is with our social infrastructure, because they help us improve our quality of life. They help us improve our quality of life and fulfill our basic human needs. Then we call them social overheads, social infrastructure. Okay, right. We are hopefully okay. If there's anything, you guys will ask me. Right? When it comes to social overheads, sometimes social overheads is mixed up with human capital, and sometimes more commonly social overheads get mixed up with social capital. So to be clear on these things, with social capital, social overheads, or social overheads or infrastructure, same thing. Then separately we have social capital and human capital. We shouldn't get these three things mixed up. Okay, right. So what is human capital? Human capital is basically a certain amount of knowledge, certain level of knowledge, skills, competencies, and certain other, we can say, interpersonal attributes, certain, we can say, again, the word is skills, I suppose. Certain talents people have developed, okay, or certain qualities people have developed within them, right? That is what we really identify as human capital. So when you think human capital, it's a certain set of knowledge, skills, competencies, and the word I was looking for, now I remembered it, abilities, certain very interpersonal abilities, right? Within you, if there are certain abilities you have developed. So knowledge, skills, competencies, abilities within a person is what we call human capital. Human capital. Why do we call this human capital? Now we understand why we call it human. Why? Because these are certain knowledge, skills, competencies, and abilities within a person. So human element is there. Why do we call it capital? We use the word capital because capital is something human-made, right? Created by humans. So human capital is also something we develop in us. We make it. But all of us are born with some basic mental, physical effort. No, that is labor. All of us naturally, inherently meaning inbuilt, we have certain mental and physical capabilities are there, abilities are there. That is a very basic thing. That is called labor. But when you take that, when you start with that basic mental, physical ability, but you invest time, money, effort, you make certain sacrifices, you bring a lot of commitment, perseverance, and you develop knowledge. You gather knowledge, right? Through education, by doing different qualifications. And you develop skills through training, right? Through experience. You develop competencies. Competence is the ability or the knowledge a person has to do a job perfectly. If you're competent in something, you know how to do that job in the most efficient and effective manner, perfectly. So we are not born with human capital. We are born with labor, physical, basic mental, physical effort. But we develop human capital by investing time, effort, and making sacrifices and commitment towards education. So how do we get human capital? Through education, through training, through experiences, yes, and by making sure that we through basically the education, training, experience, these are the ways that we develop our capital, human capital. So the human capital is actually a combination of two factors of production. What are the two factors of production that really combine hybrid concept human capital is? What are the two things that are combined? Labor and capital. Get it? Human capital is a combination of labor and capital. And human capital is intangible. Human capital is what? Intangible. It's an intangible item or intangible set of I would say skills a person has, human capital. So quality of your labor depends on how much human capital you have developed. If a person is able to develop a higher level of human capital, that individual has a very high quality of labor. So what you guys are doing, you guys are in the beginning part of developing a high quality, a high caliber of human capital. When you get your A-levels done well, with all the knowledge you get here, plus when you go and do your higher studies, when you do professional qualifications, when you receive training, internships, when you then go through experience in your career, what are you developing, Putta? You are developing step by step a very valuable thing called human capital that will keep improving your quality of labor. So there are different ways we can define human capital, but all of these different definitions have a common set of concepts that we use, or words we talk about: knowledge, skills, interpersonal skills, competencies, these words. How do we get them? Education, receiving training and experience. Education, receiving training and experience. So human capital is a very individual thing, individualistic thing. Only a particular person can develop his or her human capital. You can't forcefully develop human capital in people. It has to come from that person to develop human capital, right? Then with the social capital, right? So what is social capital? Many people think social capital is another word for human capital. Get it? Many people think social capital is another word for, as I said earlier, social overheads or social infrastructure. No. Both are wrong. They are separate concepts. Social capital is simply put, this unique ability we as humans have to work with each other, understand each other, respect each other's values, norms, beliefs, and have a mutual respect. What respect? Mutual respect. Mutual trust you have to have when you want to develop social capital. If people living in a certain country, if people living in a certain society have a lot of respect for each other, who understand they might be different, maybe they follow a different, they are from different ethnicities, they are from different religious backgrounds and beliefs, they are from different educational levels, different levels of society, yes, doing different jobs. All that differences, diversity might be there, all that diversity might be there, but still, if people living in a given society can come together, right, trust each other, right, and work, help each other and work towards a common goal, common benefit that will benefit everyone, that is called human capital. The ability humans have, a society has to work together, ability the society has to work together, social capital. It can't be, it's really difficult to create social capital. It's something that has to come within the society and it have it, right? Sometimes a very powerful, very strong cause will bind people together and develop social capital. The most recent example in Sri Lanka for social capital is what? Where people from different parts of the country, different ethnicities, different backgrounds, men, women, children, and different education levels, different occupations, different levels of social sophistication, the so-called high class people, middle class people, average class people, everyone came together. And they were all working together, helping each other, supporting each other, giving a moral boost to each other for one cause. What was the recent example in Sri Lanka for this? And to a certain extent, I don't think that is the best outcome, but to a certain extent, achieve whatever they wanted to achieve, that they believe will give them common, give us common benefit. What is this? Yes, very good. Madhija, you have used the English word. We had our own word for this. Yes, Hasini, very correct. Shera, very correct. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Anyone else? There's a solid example for social capital in Sri Lanka this year, few months back. The movement started many months back. Yes, I think, yes, Madhija, now you got the correct word. Correct, yes. Right? So basically, yes, the Araga layer. No, it's dialed down now, but the Araga layer was a prime example of social capital. Get it? Because we came together, trusted each other, and worked together for a common goal. That's social capital. How did the Araga layer start? How was the Araga layer formed? Basically, we used mainly Buddha. Today, social capital is created through social networks. Social networks. We communicate with each other with one Facebook post, one Instagram post, one tweet, right? Or one small YouTube clip. You can get hundreds of thousands of people to rally around a cause, and you can start the whole thing. Get it? Right. The traditional examples for social capital include things like farmers association. All the farmers work together for a common benefit for all the farmers. Get it? Right. Women's associations. Are there men's associations? Maybe. Women's associations, credit granting societies, charity organizations, different establishments set up to assist special groups such as widowers, orphans, disabled soldiers, so on and so forth. All of these are examples of social capital. Get it? Where we work with mutual trust and understanding together with each other for a common welfare, common benefit. Okay, that is social capital. Social capital is not about schools and hospitals and playgrounds and public parks and libraries and art galleries, and no, those are social infrastructure. Social capital is something else. Right. Any questions? We have covered the main types of capital. Ladies and gentlemen. Gentlemen. Okay. Ladies, any questions? Are there any gentlemen? Some days there are. Right. Okay. Okay, there's a request from one of your virtual classmates to, if possible, quickly but I'm going to make a small change in your request to be fair, right? So that the others will also be clear, okay with it. So you have asked me to please, can you, sir, please, can you explain about economic overheads? I'll just make a small change there. So please, can you explain again about economic overheads? Because I did explain about economic overheads. If you want me to give it another try or give it a take another approach and explain it, that I can do, and I can do it very quickly. Is that clear? Okay, right. So basically what the economic overheads are, any basically fixed asset, some kind of a facility, something we have constructed something. It could be a system also, right? Later on we learn infrastructure is in two ways. Hard infrastructure and soft infrastructure. For now, we just only talk about the hard infrastructure. So fixed assets. Any fixed assets, constructions, structures, facilities that are made, the main purpose of building them, main purpose of allocating resources and providing them is to make the entire production and exchange process very convenient and efficient. The objective is to make the production process efficient, exchange process efficient. That is the transportation, distribution of goods and services, that whole process, right? Efficient. If the objective of the infrastructure is that, now hold on. Sometimes you might be thinking, okay, don't we also just use the roads and the transportation systems and the whatever these economic infrastructure, don't we also use it for our own personal day-to-day things? Yes, we do, Puta. Definitely we do. But the main purpose of airports, ports, now if you take the Colombo harbor, is it built for an economic purpose, or is it built for a more social purpose for people to in the afternoon, in the evening, just go and, you know, relax in the harbor? Or is it for an economic purpose, commercial purpose? The harbor is built. The airport is built for people to travel. Yes, but mainly an airport does, the main thing the airport does is connects us with the international markets, no? International, the other countries, rest of the world, isn't it? Are we clear on what I'm saying? So, Buddha, when we provide these types of infrastructure facilities, the main objective is to improve the efficiency and convenience of the production and exchange process, while you and I will use them for our social or personal requirements. Yes, but the main purpose is that. That's why we call it economic infrastructure. Did that make sense? Look at the examples. It will make even more sense, hopefully. So did I explain it to you? Yeah, all right. Okay, fine. Good for you. Right. Anything else up to now? What did I kept on? What did I keep? What am I continuously saying? That there's something you guys have to do at home. Ideally, maybe over the next couple of days. What is that? Anyone? What are you supposed to do now? Thank God. Yes. Very good. Thank you. Read. Readers are leaders. So you have to read. Right? Please make sure, Putra, that you take the time and read everything that I went through and I explained. If you do that, maybe latest by tomorrow, ideally by tomorrow, or latest by day after tomorrow. So by Sunday latest, if you can sit in a place properly, focus and read all this one more time, with the explanation being fresh in your mind, what we are doing now, the explanation being very fresh in your mind. If you read it by tomorrow, ideally, if not at least day after tomorrow, then Buddha, this will very solidly get deposited in your God-given multifunctional relatively unused brain. Okay, so that will be very effective then. So I hope you guys will do that, and I trust you guys will do that. Okay, trust is a very powerful word, right? Okay, I need to be able to trust you guys, and you need to be able to trust me. Then only we can do this. Okay, but it's a team effort. You know that, no? Right. Okay. Okay, let's talk about investment. What is investment? Investment is capital formulation. Now we know capital is a human-made real asset. No? So how do we create capital? That is called, the process of creating capital is called what? Investment, capital formulation. Investment or capital formulation. Get used to the words. Okay, investment or capital formulation. So when you hear investment, what do you think? The process of creating capital assets. Okay, right. So new addition to the existing stock of capital of a country is known as investment. This can be basically where you increase the existing stock of capital by creating new capital assets, or it could be basically by replacing the capital assets that have been fully used within the production process. What does that mean? Remember, Buddha, we talked about depreciation. Now, if you take a machine, right, you can't use a machine forever. No? Every machine, every equipment, every capital asset has what we call an economic life. What life? Economic life, a productive life. Meaning how many years, if we use it under normal conditions, if we maintain the asset or the machine properly, for how many years can we use this machine before we have to replace it, before we have to completely remove it and buy a new machine. So that's called economic life, productive life. So what happens is, we believe the more we use a machine, the more years we use a machine, it will be subject to depreciation. It will be subject to depreciation. The more we take out of the machine in terms of productivity, it will depreciate. So the more depreciation that happens, at one point, the machine can be fully depreciated. What do we say? Fully depreciated. Once a machine becomes fully depreciated and reaches the end of its economic life, we don't say the machine has died and the funeral and all that, but once the machine has reached the end of its economic life, fully depreciated, what do we need to do? We need to replace it. So investment can happen when we create new capital assets, or it can happen when we replace the capital assets that are fully used within the production process, meaning fully depreciated. When we replace them, there is also investment. Are we clear? In some books I've heard they use this, I've read they use this term for replacing capital assets that are fully depreciated. They use a word called capital reformulation. Reformulation. But basically, your examiner just uses a common word, investment, capital formulation. Could be new capital, could be replacing depreciated capital. Right? Okay. Now the million-rupee question here is, to invest, to create capital, where do we find the, to invest, to create capital, where do we find the funds? Where do we find the funds or the money? Right? Right. I'm extremely sorry. Right. Yeah. Can you guys give me 1 second, please? Right. Extremely sorry. Okay. So as I was saying, now the million rupee question you need to ask is, where do we find the funds? Which simple English, which means the money. Where do we find the money? The financial capital we need for funds are required for what? Investment or capital formulation. Remember, Puta, the more we invest in our economy, right? When investment is very high, the outcome of investment is always what happens? We achieve something that Sri Lanka is struggling to achieve. Economic growth. We achieve what growth? Economic growth. So as a country, if we want to achieve economic growth, produce more goods and services, increase our income, right? Make our lives a bit better, then we need to invest. To invest, we need funds, meaning money. Where do you find the money? How can you find the money to invest? As a country, okay? But let's quickly talk about it as an individual, as a single person. How do you find money? Your parents, if they want to invest in the household, if they want to maybe build a extension to the house, you know, if at the moment, if you are sharing a room with your sibling, right? But they feel that you need your own room so that you can concentrate better, participate in these virtual classes better, you know, in the proper environment, you might thrive and study better, right? Then they want to now add another room to the house. Okay, they can't build you your own house just because you want to study, but right? But they're trying to add another room and give more space. So to do that, where can your parents find money, Puta? It's a big amount they have to invest at once, no? Keep that in mind. Okay. Yes, Kadir, that's a good option, maybe. Okay. Right. Now, but every month, these days, it's extremely difficult in Sri Lanka to do. But every month, your parents really strive to ensure, right? Really try to ensure that their total monthly income is not spent on the consumption of goods and services. In other words, basically with the income, mainly what we do is with income, right? With income, mainly what we do is, main thing is main thing we do is consumption, expenditure, consumption. So for that, we incur consumption expenditure, the day-to-day things we need to buy, right? So from their income, Puta, after spending on consumption, they try to keep something left, something behind. A balance they try to keep, even after incurring all the consumption. What is that called? The money that remains after consumption. Very good. There we go. I'm getting answers very quickly. Brilliant. Right? Yes, all of you are correct there. That is, we have savings. Okay? Yes, very correct. We have savings. Brilliant. All of you have answered. Good. Savings. We have savings. So income, you spend mainly on consumption. The balance becomes savings. Savings is the first way we can find the money, and that we can invest. That becomes the funds. Get it? So from savings, we can invest. Your parents can build that room if they have savings. What if they don't have savings? Then, as some of you suggested, the next thing we can do is, yes, if they don't have savings, brilliant, Putta, very good. We go for loans and find the money. Are we clear? If we don't have savings, then we have to go for loans. We have to borrow and find the money. Are we clear? Right. So, as a country also, Buddha, those are the two main ways we can find the money. There's a third way where we can ask companies from foreign countries come to Sri Lanka and start their business activities within Sri Lanka. That is called, what is it called? When you invite foreign companies to come to Sri Lanka and start factories and produce goods and services and do their business in Sri Lanka, what is it called? You might have heard of this. We have a special government institution for this called the BOI. What does BOI stand for? Economics, okay? What does BOI stand for? Anyone? No? Yes? See, these are things you have to learn in your subject, okay? Right. I'm just asking whether you have a basic idea about that. That's all. Yes, I'm getting an answer. Good. Brilliant, Akila. Very good. Board of Investment. Yes. Here we go. I'm getting answers. Shera, very correct. Madija, very correct. Right? Yes. We call it the Board of Investment. What is the job of the BOI, the Board of Investment? Their job is for the domestic years, but mainly through foreign sources, they have to attract investors. The investors that the BOI is trying to attract into Sri Lanka are called foreign direct investors, FDI, foreign direct investment. So if you can't find savings within the country, if you can't or don't want to borrow, Sri Lanka doesn't have a thing about don't want to borrow. We borrow. We are happy to borrow. Right? We have borrowed ourselves into this entire economic crisis. No? Anyway, we'll talk about that later. So if we can't or don't want to borrow, now Sri Lanka, the current situation is that we want to borrow, but we can't borrow because the amount money we have borrowed in the past, we are unable to repay. So no right thinking, rational country of international organization or a capital market in the world will not give us any more loans because we haven't paid the loans we have taken before. We are a country in default. What is the word? We are a country in default. Default meaning you're not paying your loans. You're defaulted. So Sri Lanka now, we don't have savings actually, right? We look at this as domestic savings, national savings. We don't have this, right? Or very low levels of savings, not enough savings to achieve the investment targets we want. So we can't achieve our growth targets, economic growth targets. So when we try to borrow also, we are having a problem now. So our only option really left for us is to get foreign direct investors to come into Sri Lanka and invest. That's the way to create investments and achieve growth now. But that also it's difficult because of the economic crisis we are in. Most foreign companies are afraid to come to Sri Lanka because they say there is no stability here. Challenges, okay? The economic hole we are in. Right. So let's get this done. Right. Now, there's a small thing I didn't explain earlier, but I think you guys will easily understand. Remember what I said, income is used for consumption and the balance becomes savings. Actually, what we use for consumption and the balance becomes savings is the concept called disposable income, YD. What is YD? Disposable income. It's called disposable income, YD. Y for income. In economics, income is always capital Y. That's a standard traditional abbreviation. Income is capital Y. Okay? Right. What is YD, Pata? It's an easy concept. Don't overthink. Basically, I'll explain it this way. Right? YD means the income we can actually legally spend on goods and services. Actually and legally spend on goods and services is called disposable income. Disposable income. Dispose on goods and services. Disposable. right? So disposable income, right, or usable, right, is, how do we calculate? We take income. So this is what we call earned income. I hope that is clear. Earned income. What is earned income? Your parents mainly, right? You guys don't earn income yet, no? Your parents put mainly by providing their land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, right? If they are earning rent, wages, interest, profits, if they are earning an income by providing a factor of production, right? Or running a business or whatever, they're earning an income, that's called earned income. Why? Okay? It is two-way thing. You provide a factor of production, you get an income. Earned income, right? T is then, right, income earned. I've explained it here, no? Income earned, right? T is basically, anyway, I'll just quickly do it here. T is, right, the taxes on your income, right? From your income, the part you have to pay as tax to the government. Tax to the government. So remember, this is income taxes. Income taxes. Not taxes we pay when we buy goods and services. Those are called indirect taxes or goods and services taxes. We'll talk about those later. These are income taxes. From your income, the tax is a law, everyone has to obey it. From your income, part of your income, but it doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the government. Okay, so that part, you can't spend on goods and services. When the government comes, when the inland revenue comes knocking, you can't say, inland revenue, you know, with the 20,000 rupees I had to pay as income taxes, I bought this new thing, no, right? It doesn't work, you know. Or when the inland revenue comes knocking, they don't come knocking. You understand what I'm saying, no, Buddha? Right? They don't come to your home and collect the taxes. But if the inland revenue comes knocking, if you think it like that, right? You can't open the door and say, "Ayyo, inland revenue, you know, I just went and bought dinner, you know, for the tax amount I have to pay." You can't say that. You don't have the legal right to spend that money on goods and services. It belongs to the government, taxes. So you take the income you earn minus the tax part. Okay. Then you add something also. What you add is what we call, right? I said transfers and subsidies. Transfers is the better word, right? Now things like maybe if you have your grandparents at home, they might be getting a, right, pension income, no? Pension income. Then in Sri Lanka we have the Samurdhi benefits. Samurdhi benefits are there. Other welfare payments are there. These are, right, one-sided. You're just receiving something. Transfer, not transaction. Earned income, transaction. You give the factor of production, you earn something. But these are one-sided transfers. But nevertheless, you can spend it on goods and services. So you minus the taxes, add the transfers, then you get YD. YD is used for two purposes. Consumption, mainly consumption, or first for consumption. After spending on consumption, if there is something left, then we have savings. So savings is YD minus C becomes savings. Savings is our main source or main way we find the funds, the money we need to invest. In a country, we have three parties who save, that create our domestic savings. Who are these three parties? Household save, right? That is what we explained actually also. Household savings, main part is that. In Sri Lanka, this is at a lower level. Then business savings, businesses also can save, right? From the profits they earn, the amount they don't share, give the shareholders, the business keeps a certain amount to reinvest in the business. That is called business savings, retained profits, business savings. That is also at a lower level in Sri Lanka. Government savings, government has an income, tax, non-tax government has an income. From that income, you minus the government's expenditure. That amount is the remaining amount. Government also has a running expenditure, you minus that expenditure. From the government's income minus expenditure is called If the answer is positive, that's called government savings. In Sri Lanka, government savings is actually a negative value. Government savings is negative value. The economic term for this is dis-savings. What is it called? Dis-savings. Government is not contributing to domestic savings. Government is taking out of domestic savings. Because the government of Sri Lanka's total income, tax and non-tax, the total income of the government of Sri Lanka is not even enough for the government's own living cost. Government's own consumption is not enough. Get what I'm saying? Right? That's why we can't pay our loans. That's why we are defaulting. So what savings? We can't even pay our loans. We can't talk about savings. No? So this savings. So in Sri Lanka, overall domestic savings is in a major problem, major low point. So when we don't have savings, what is the other way we invest? We go for loans. Mainly we have gone for loans from domestic loans the government has taken, foreign loans the government has taken. So when we don't have enough money within the country, we take foreign loans. That's why we have a huge foreign indebtedness. That's why we are so much in debt to countries like China, India, Japan, and America, and many other countries are there who have given us loans. We are in debt to find money for investment. Then maybe a really good option, if we can do something about it, is if we can really focus on this, is foreign direct investments, right? Where we get money, or we get the funds we need. We get a lot of new or modern technology. We get new management methods, new methods of running businesses can come into the country, right? So all these benefits we get, right? We get many, we say employment opportunities, right? All those benefits are there with foreign direct investments. So how do we make Sri Lanka an attractive country for investors to come? First thing, our attitude has to change. We should be willing to give them certain concessions and benefits. And our politicians and the pressure groups in Sri Lanka, like the trade unions, the other political pressure groups in our country, all of these people need to understand that Sri Lanka is not the only country in the world trying to attract foreign direct investors. If a US company, a German company, a Japanese company, or a UK company, they are looking to invest in another country, right? If foreign direct investment in another country, right? Sri Lanka is not the only country in the world where they can invest. There are hundreds of other, many, 20, 30, 40, 50 countries in the world who are trying to get that investment. So we have to compete with them. Then we have the attitude where, no, we are Sri Lanka, we can't allow these things, we have to protect that, and we have to protect this, and we can't, these foreign companies, we can't, and all that. We have that kind of a very regressive attitude towards foreign investments. Obviously, they are going to go to another country. They're not going to come to Sri Lanka. So this is our last resort kind of a way to get out of this problem, right? And to grow our economy. So that also, because of our attitude towards foreign investors and foreign investment, we are unable to do that. So unless that change, system change, thinking change happens, difficult to get out of this problem, right? The end, I mean in capital. Okay, right. Okay, any questions, Putta? We are completely done with capital. I've explained everything. Anything you need to know? If not, we start labor. Are we okay? Ladies, gentlemen? No, sorry, I keep saying that, cause of habit. Right. Yeah? Right. This is why, Putta, things take time, okay? There's a lot to explain, a lot to understand. This is the nature of the subject. Please, as I said before, many times I'm sure, don't compare economics with your other subjects, right? And don't think that we are taking too much time. Some students have told me, So, you seem to explain a lot, almost like they're saying, what is this word, over explaining and all that. But we have to understand something, no? Right? Unless you have done A levels before, unless you have learned the entire economic syllabus before, right? How would you know whether I'm explaining more or less or the right amount? That can only be decided by the teacher, right? Who has the experience of teaching this subject. So believe me when I say this, if I explain something a bit more detail, it is because it has to be explained in bit more detail. Certain things, if I know with the knowledge and the experience of doing this job for many years, you guys know you're my 20th advanced level batch. 20th advanced level batch. So during this time, I would have learned something new, right? So if I know a certain area is less important for you in the exam and in terms of knowledge, I will make it very brief. But certain things I will go into detail and explain. Is that clear? Got it? So yeah, that's the advantage. Maybe that's the advantage of learning from someone who has a bit of experience doing the job. And this is not me tooting my own horn or bragging here, not at all. This is just to give you guys some confidence, right? At the moment, for English medium, right, you are learning from one of the most experienced and experienced teachers who has an unmatched track record of performance. Okay, right. Because based on the number of years of experience I have in this job and the performance of my past students, unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know, it's not possible for someone to match that, right? So unless I stop teaching this year, with God's grace and blessings, I think I can continue teaching for a few more years. Got it? Right. So let's use, I'm using all that when I do my job. So you guys get the benefit of that. So every explanation is done the right amount. Get the maximum use out of it. Right. So yeah, that's that. So let's see. Are we done? Yep. We are done here. We are done here. We are done here. We are done here. And we are done here. Yes, that will appear, I think. Yes, we are done there also. Okay. Right. Then we move on to, I could have used the slides, no man. Right. Anyway, the job was done no anyhow. Right. Maybe this is a quick flashback now. Okay. Right. I totally forgot I had this in the slides. But anyway, it would have been boring that way. Right. Main sources. Labor. Here we go. Yours and my resource. No, labor. Right. Shall we write this? Now, quickly, I want to check with you guys because we started at a very odd time today. What's the plan now? 7:30, 8:30, 9:30, the 2-hour mark. Okay. Because I have covered a lot of ground. I can finish a bit before 9:30. But if you guys are okay with it, I can go up to 9:30 also. What do you want to do? You don't want the class to stop? That's even better. Yeah, we can set a record. No, we don't have to do all that, no? Okay, some of you are commenting. I want all of you to give me your opinion. Yeah. Okay, unless you have a major issue with that, we can go up to 9:30, okay? I'm perfectly okay with that. I'm just checking with you guys, that's all. What is your bedtime? Normally. What time do you guys go to sleep? 8:30. What? Don't sleep. Oh, nocturnal people. Try to sleep a bit earlier than that, Buddha. Okay, right? Because it's Friday, I suppose, no? On a school day, of course, next day, if you have school, you sleep early, no? Right. Okay. Don't trouble your body. Right. Okay. Done? Right. So we'll see how it goes. I think we can go up to 9:30 without a problem. Okay. Shall we write this? Did you guys write this part? The simple first line, first part of the definition? Yes. So what is labor? The mental and physical efforts. These are the two key words, no? The mental and physical effort of human beings used in the process of producing goods and services. Labor is a human resource. Labor is a human resource. Okay, that's the first part always. Then we say payment for and earnings from providing labor are wages. Common word, wages. And salaries, but the word is wages. Okay. Then we say the level of labor used or employed in a given activity is measured using labor hours. Very important. Measured using labor hours. So labor, now this gives us the idea, right? Labor is L-A-B-O-U-R, labor. Is that clear? Sometimes my handwriting is really good. So then it becomes very clear. Labor okay, we have this, right? Labor is not the person. Huh? What does that mean? If labor is not the person, what is labor then? No, labor is not the person. Right? You can't look at me, measure my height, measure my weight. Get it? Measure my, yeah, whatever. And, height and weight, and you can't say, this much of labor is there. No, labor is not the person. Right? Now, for example, Buddha will say in a labor is not the person. I have to complete that, no? Labor is not the person. But the mental and physical effort. Get it? Mental and physical effort in what? Mental and physical effort given, provided in production. When do we provide? Why do we provide? We'll come to that. Provide in production. That's labor. The mental physical effort is the labor. So how many hours of mental physical effort are you willing to provide? That is labor. That is what labor is all about, not the person. Now we'll say, but in a given room, just okay, in a given room, right, there are 20 people. Okay, how much labor do we have in this room? How much labor resource do we have in this room? If there are 20 people in a room, labor is not the person. Labor is the physical mental effort given or provided in production by that person. How much labor do we have in the room if there are 20 people in the room? If the head count is 20, head count is 20 people, how much labor? Can you answer my question or cannot? Can you answer my question or cannot? Cannot. Okay. Some of you guys are saying cannot. Sure? Why? Because labor is not the person. If someone says 20 is the labor resource, no, that's wrong. Why? Because you have to go to each of these 20 people. If you want to know how much labor is there, right? You have to go to each of these 20 people, right? Each of these 20 people and ask them, right? And ask them, okay, person, how many, what is the question you ask? What is the question you should ask them? How many of them are providing labor? Yes, good. You should ask the question to measure how much labor is there. How is labor measured? How is labor measured? Based on what hours? Labor hours. Labor is measured based on labor hours. So if you want to know how much each person is going to provide labor, you have to ask them the question what? You have to ask them how many hours of, you can say, labor. What are you asking really? Physical, mental effort are you willing to provide? How many hours of labor? Each person had asked this question. Would they answer? If you ask that question, would you answer? Okay. If I just randomly, right? Don't worry about that. You don't have to answer. If you're willing to answer, please answer. Right? If I ask Akil or Christine or Hasini or just I'm saying, right, Nuha or Shera or someone, if I ask you about how many hours of labor are you willing to provide? Can you answer a question like that? I don't think you can answer. I would, if I was you, I wouldn't answer. I would say, I would ask counter questions. What is that? I would say, okay, for what? What kind of a job are you asking me for? For my labor for? What is the job? What is the nature of the job? What is the working condition? I want to know. Otherwise, I can't say, how many hours. Are we clear? Then next, even if I say, okay, this is the job, you have to, do some, provide some information about our product or do some, some customer service or something like that. That is a job. Or do some, basic data processing or whatever, something like that. Right? Then you will say, okay, right. What is the, would you say how many hours, or would you ask another question? What is the other question you would ask? Labor is when you provide physical, mental effort, right, for a production activity, production process, expecting an economic benefit, something in return. Yes, the economic benefit is called wages broadly, but it's something in return you expect. No? So what can that be? This thing you expect in return could be what? It could be salary, it could be allowance, it could be a commission, it could be maybe some kind of benefit for you or your family. We call it a family gain, a benefit. It could be maybe what do we say? It could be a part of the revenue, part of the profits, profit share, revenue share, all this. Broadly, the word is wages. So, but you can't say how many hours unless you know what is the job, unless you know what is the wages paid. You'll ask me, okay, how much am I going to be paid per hour? Per hour, how much are you going to pay me? Then if I say okay, for hour, I'll pay you 200 rupees or 300 rupees, then you will consider that. But then, so first question was, what is the job? What kind of a job am I supposed to do? Second question is how much is paid for the job per hour? Still, you will not tell me how many hours. You have to ask one more question. You'll have to ask I used this word earlier, but really now I'll give the meaning. What is the working conditions? Meaning you're asking, what is the risk I have to face in this job? Is there any element of risk? Now, what if I tell you your job is, I'm just saying, right? Yeah, example, your job is during this high point of this whole petrol problem we had, petrol diesel shortage we had, where people were in kilometer long queues, for day long queues, couple of days they were in the queue to get some petrol, to get some fuel. Get the point, right? In that kind of a situation, your job is to go to a petrol station, stay in a petrol station, and when a person stays in a queue for so long and comes to the pump near the fuel pump, your job is to explain to that person that the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, so you're hired by the Petroleum Corporation, the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation is doing the best they can, and they are doing a really good job and trying to solve this problem as much as possible, just to convince people the CPC is doing a good job. That if that is the job given to you or the task given to you, is there a risk in your job? When you have to go and explain to a person who has been in a petrol queue for 2 days that the CPC is doing a really good job and the best they can, is there a risk in your job? Yes or no? I think there's a tremendous risk in your job. I think that risk during that time, that risk would be more, it would be a bigger risk than going into war. You understand what I'm saying? It will be a bigger risk than living in Ukraine or Kiev, the capital. Get it? So, Puta, before you say how many hours of labor you are going to provide for a job, ask these questions always. What is the job? How much am I being paid? And what is the risk involved in the job? What are the conditions involved in the job? Get it? Right. So we'll say, after asking all those prudent and very logical questions, one person out of these 20 people tell me, I am willing to provide 5 hours. I am willing to provide 5 hours. Okay. Then I keep asking the same question. I go to the same process for all 20 people. Each of them will give me different number of hours. One person would say 5, one person would say 8, one person would say only 1 hour, likewise. So what do I need to do now? I need to take the sum, SUM, or take the total aggregate of all the hours. Then I will get the labor resource, right? So that example that could be maybe about 125 hours. So when I say 125 hours, that is the labor resource we have in the room, not 20 people. 125 hours of labor. Get it? 125 hours of labor. Are we clear with that? Right. So that's very important to be clear. So some examples I have given: farmers, physical laborers, drivers, teachers, lawyers, doctors, engineers, accountants, musicians. All this is example for labor, physical, mental efforts. Some people in their job more physical, and some people in their jobs a bit more mental effort, but both are required. Are we okay? Any questions on labor? If you're okay, we can quickly go through the next we are going to talk about what will decide the level of labor in a country, and then the determinants or the characteristics. Yeah, right. Good for you. Right. What will decide how much labor resource a country would have? 3 things. 1, population. Obviously, more people, meaning even if one person is only willing to provide 1 hour of labor, you still have more labor in the country. You have a bigger labor resource in the country. Now, what is the country with the biggest labor resource in the world? Let's see. Very good. Anyone else? Hasini, Khadija, Shera. Good. Correct answer. At the moment, this is the country with the greatest labor resource in the world. Madhija, correct? Yeah, good. Yes, China. Now, with just an exam idea, basic idea. If you take China, right, they have something called, every country has this. labor force. We'll learn what is labor force a bit later. China has a labor force of about 800 approximately, okay, million. Sri Lanka has a labor force of about 8.7 million, 8.8, 8.7 or 8.9 million, we'll say 8.7 million. So 800 million, 8.7 million. Get it? China has 8,000 lakhs. Okay. Sri Lanka has 87 lakhs of people. Labor force is the number of people. Now, even if each person in China's 800 million strong labor force is only willing to work 10 minutes a day, only willing to work how much? 10 minutes a day or 15 minutes a day, still, and in every person in Sri Lanka's labor force is willing to work 12 hours a day, still China has a bigger labor resource because they have a large population size. Get it? Right. Health standard and physicality of the population. Of course, you have to be, you might have the mental, physical, labor is the mental and physical effort, but you need to be able to do that. So that depends on your health standard and the physicality. Physically, how fit you are. And the education level. That will also have an impact on the quality of labor you provide, the productivity of labor you provide, you know, and how many hours, if you work, how much output you can produce. That depends on the education standard and the skill levels of people. So these are the three factors, or we call them determinants, three determinants of a country's level of labor resource. Very straightforward and easy to remember. Then, Buddha, this is what I said, we'll talk about this later. Now, if you take a country, you have to understand, we have a distribution of how the population is looked at when it comes to labor as a resource, right? First of all, on top of this, now here we have something called working age. No, before that we have population. I'll just write it here, okay? Population. Can you guys tell me what is the population of Sri Lanka at present? According to the central bank report or according to the official data, what is the population of Sri Lanka? Okay, I'm getting some answers. Close. Yes, approximately somewhere there. 1 million more than that. Yes, Hasini, correct. Approximately, yes. So according to the central bank annual report, the population of Sri Lanka, I'm looking for the annual report. I normally have it within reaching distance. Anyway, it might be in the other room. Right. Okay. Anyway, yes, our population is with approximately about 22 million. 22 million. Right? From this 22 million, we don't consider this entire 22 million when we think of labor or the labor force even. From the 22 million, we take people who are 15 years and above here, 15 years and above, and we call them the working age population. What population? Working age population. In Sri Lanka, this is roughly about 17 million people. Roughly 17 million falls into the working age. What age? Working age. What is the qualification to be in the working age? 15 years and above. Right. So are you guys in the working age? You guys are in the working age. Are you employed or unemployed? You guys are in the working age. Are you employed or unemployed? Unemployed? Sure. So is that why your parents sometimes when they get annoyed with you for doing something intelligent, you know, or not doing anything at all, you know, sometimes they say, no, completely unemployed. You know, they might use another word or two, but they say, no, unemployed, you know, right. The thing is, Puta, you guys are not unemployed. Because for you to be unemployed, look at this chart, look at the flow chart. Where is unemployed? Where does it come under? It comes under economically active or labor force. You guys are 15 years and above years, but you guys don't go into the labor force. Because if you want to go into the labor force, you have to be two things. One, you are willing, right? One, you are willing. Sorry, extremely sorry. Okay, I should write it more clearly than that. Right. So the first thing is, you should be willing. And second thing is, you should be able. Only if you are willing and able to provide labor or work, willing and able to work, provide labor, expecting some kind of an economic benefit, then you go into the economically active population, which is commonly known as the labor force. Labor force. If you are economically active, if you are in the labor force, you are willing and able to work, and you have found a job, then you are employed. There's a way to measure these things. Then you are employed. If you haven't found a job, you are called unemployed. But to be employed or unemployed, you have to first place be in the labor force or economically active population. You guys are not willing. You are able to, but you are not willing to provide labor. Why? Because you guys are here. What are you? Okay. Something happened there. Told you there's a bit of a delay in this. Right. Okay. Anyway, you guys are full-time students. So you are not willing to provide labor. So you fall into a category known as economically inactive. Economically inactive. In Sri Lanka, roughly about 8.7 or so is in economically active or labor force, which means the balance 8.3 is economically inactive. So full-time students are there. Persons engaged in household duties are there, right? Traditionally called housewives. We don't use that term now, right? Household activities. Retired old age people are there. Elderly people are there. Infirmed or long-term illness, disabled. Yes, then people who are voluntarily idle. Even if you give them a job, they will say no. They are happy with what they are doing. So they don't want to work. Maybe they have enough wealth. All that. So economically inactive. You guys are economically inactive. So the next time your parents or someone just looks at you and says unemployed, please tell them, no, I am not unemployed. To be unemployed, I have to be economically active, i.e., I have to be in the labor force. I am not in the labor force. I am not economically active. I am economically inactive. What? Economically inactive. And I am what is the category of economically inactive you fall into? Full-time student. Are we clear? Right. Hopefully in the future, you guys will cross over from economically inactive to economically what? Active. Are we clear? Not all of everyone here, that can't happen. Maybe you guys can in the future, in another 5 years time, another 3 years time, another 4 years time, you guys will cross over from full-time student, another at least 5 years, you have to do your higher studies also in a way. You'll cross over from full-time students to what? Economically active. That will happen. For now, you all are economically inactive. Are we clear about any questions? So next time when someone says unemployed, tell them you're inaccurate. You're not correctly saying this. I am not unemployed. Then they will go, that means you're working. You will say, no, I am economically inactive. Get it? That's a proper term. Right. Done? Any questions? Okay. Right. So, characteristics. Let's go through this quickly. Labor is a live resource. No surprises there. We know that. Labor is a mobile resource. Yes. Mobile meaning, we can, two things. One, we can go from one job to another. we can do multiple jobs. People can do, not the same person doing multiple jobs, but not at the same time. I mean, you can do different tasks, right? That the flexibility is there. Generally, unless the job requires a specific skill or a licensing or something like practicing as a doctor, medical doctor, surgeon, those kinds of things you can't do, right? Accountant can't all of a sudden become a surgeon. That doesn't work. But generally, mobility, occupational mobility is there. We can do different jobs. If you are a management graduate, if you are a business administration graduate, right? You can do different things, right? And geographical, people can move from one place to another. So mobility, right? Labor is not the person, rather the right. My God, we know this. We started with this to be very clear with labor. Quality of labor is different from person to person. True, Nabuta? Non-homogeneous. Two people can have the same qualifications. They could have gone to the same school. They could have gone, okay, we'll say there are two people who are twins. Every single thing about them is the same, but the quality of labor is not going to be the same. It's very connected with the person, no? So it's going to change, right? It's going to change. Then the productivity of labor can be improved through education, training, and technology. Very true. Yes. And also by using more capital, machinery, equipment. So I think the technology part is that. Okay. And the education and training part is what we have learned as human capital. What we have learned as human capital. Get it? Right. Then demonstrates the ability to make decisions and organize. True enough, Nabudha. The very unique thing about labor compared with the land and capital, the property resources, is humans can make decisions. Humans can organize things, right? Special kind of human resource is what we call entrepreneurship. So even a basic person who has basic labor skills can make decisions. However much artificial intelligence and things like that are developed, certain decisions only humans can make based on emotional intelligence. Based on emotional intelligence. Artificial intelligence cannot replace people because certain decisions only a person can make. For example, we'll say, now there are a lot of these advanced surgeries that are performed using automated robotic machine. It's automated, right? Computers, artificial intelligence is performing those surgeries because they are very sensitive. So if there is a neurosurgery being done, if you're operating on a person's brain, right? But the thing is, the neurosurgeon is always in the theater, even though it's done through the robotic, the artificial intelligence, the machine is doing it, right? But the surgeon is always there, monitoring everything. And sometimes, when you do surgery, only when you really open up and really look at it, you will see sometimes the situation is different from what the scans and the MRIs and all that showed, right? So in that situation, there might be an decision to be made. Now, for example, to save that person, to remove the tumor or whatever it is that you're operating for, a decision has to be made whether to, if you save the person's eyesight, the person's speech may go off. If you save the person's speech, the eyesight may go off, something like that. A trade-off is there sometimes. Very, very difficult decision, no? Can a machine make that decision? Can artificial intelligence make that decision? How would artificial intelligence make that decision? It will look at the probability of success, right? And decide. No? But if it's a human being there, the doctor would do it differently. Doctor will use emotional intelligence. Doctor will talk to the family of the patient. Doctor will get to know who the patient is. Now, if the patient is a singer, no, the patient is a singer, vocalist, then for that person, the voice, being able to talk, being able to sing is the most important thing. Then the doctor can make a decision, okay, let's save the voice, but we might have to give up on eyesight. Get it? Or if the person is an artist who draws and, things like that, then that person's eyesight is more important. I mean, the human resource is unique. No? it can make these decisions and be organized unlike the other resources, especially land and capital. Okay, hopefully you guys got the point. Finally, the interrelationship, there is interrelationship between time and labor. My God, we know this. No, because we measure labor using what hours? Labor hours, time. Labor is the time. If someone says I work for 6, I'm providing labor, right, for 6 hours, basically that is 6 hours of mental physical effort. Labor and time is the same. Yes, your labor is your time. Your labor is your time. Right, done. Any questions? Anything to know? We are okay? Yes, any point you want me to explain again? Don't look at the time. Just look at the knowledge, please. Okay? Right. Next, we talk division of labor. And that next will be next week. Okay? Right. And also, Putha, remember, by next week, by the next session, which will be 1.12. Okay? Is it correct? Am I correct? Today is 1.11. Someone could help me? Yes. Once I make the Zoom link and send Putha, I don't look at it. It's 1.11, correct? Sleeping? Yes, right. So with 1.12, what will happen is we will complete the first book. Okay? And up to 1.12, I will make the YouTube direct videos also available. But after that, Putha, when we start the second book, that is Production Possibility Frontier, of course, I don't think it's fair by you guys also if I publicly have those videos available. Then it's basically you have to be a member of the virtual classes. You have to join the bus. A good bus stop is PPF, Production Possibility Frontier, with the second book. It's where the bus will stop. And anyone who is smart enough, who is still waiting for results and waiting for auspicious time to join a proper virtual learning experience, needs to get into our bus and take a good seat and, and enjoy the learning ride. Are we clear? Right. So I hope you guys got the point. Anyway, yeah, let me see you guys next week. And please do the reading part and keep up the good work. Yes? Right. So with that, Putha, I'll stop the recording also. And a very good night to all of you. All the best.